Hello and welcome back to Advanced Conversational English. Professor Kent Lee here. We are going to talk today a little bit about possible solutions to these problems of people believing in misconceptions and conspiracy theories. And this is not an easy topic. How do you deal with this as a social problem? I do view it as a social problem. It's a problem that is infecting our social media and the general public. As more and more people believe now in these misconceptions and conspiracy theories, while at the same time, more people are fact-checking them, and maybe it's leading to some healthy debate and discussion, and I hope the outcome is positive if more people maybe are able to find the right sources online that will show them the truth. But anyway, for your presentation, it would be, well, actually suggested, very, very recommended that you outline maybe at least one possible solution to this problem of why people believe in this and how can we solve this problem of, why is it a problem that people believe in this or fall for this kind of deception? But maybe one idea, at least one idea about how to address this, how to deal with this. I'm not asking for a complete set of comprehensive solutions. That's too much for this project. It's too much for a short presentation, with, especially during an online semester. And I would do a lot more in class with working on this in class if we had live classes, but we can't. So I'm just going to ask you to sketch out maybe one idea for dealing with this problem. So in your solutions, you may be talking about debunking. So it's kind of like disproving, but you explain why something is wrong. So not just proving that some idea is wrong, but explaining convincingly why this is wrong, why this is misguided. So debunking myths and misconceptions and debunking conspiracy theories. Of course, you may want to talk about education of some kind, educating the public, online education, teaching people critical thinking skills, teaching children, school kids, internet and information and critical thinking skills in a way that's specific to your problem. We've done not just in general critical thinking skills. That's very important in our modern society, I think, and our schools have not done enough. In most countries, schools have not done enough to prepare children, to prepare people for the information age. Apparently we aren't ready for it, most people, because a lot of people don't know what's a good source and what's a bad source and how to distinguish a good source from a bad source. For example, a lot of people lack the critical thinking skills. Even educated people, intelligent people, fall for some of this stuff. It's not unusual for an educated person to fall for some of this stuff. So it's not so simple. It's not like a difference, a black and white distinction between smart people and stupid people. It's more complicated than that. Even smart people can be deceived by these things. So at some level, you might talk about education. You might talk about mitigating the problem somehow. Okay, you've got all these people out there who believe in it. How can we at least maybe mitigate or kind of soften or reduce the problem? So mitigating or reducing the problem somehow, which would mean maybe dealing with those who already believe in it. And education could be a good tool for mitigation or for prevention, just preventing people in the future from being deceived by such things. Another practical benefit would be, preventing people from being deceived by business scams. Scams selling false products, fake products. That would be another good outcome, by the way. Maybe, and this is kind of hard, persuading people who already believe in this stuff that it's wrong, successfully persuading people, and it's hard. And if you want to be technical, some nice technical fancy words you could use, or dissuading people from, it's the opposite of persuading, dissuading somebody, persuading them that it's wrong and persuading them not to believe it, dissuading them from a false belief. So dissuasion is kind of a word you don't hear too much. It's a good word for if you want to take a GRE or IELTS test, maybe. Another word I don't hear this used much in English, but it's kind of a nice word, disabusing, which is not about abusing people, not about hitting dumb people who believe in nonsense. Disabusing is kind of like dissuading, showing to somebody why something is wrong and convincing them not to believe in something anymore. You talk about disabusing somebody of a false belief, convincing them that it's wrong and convincing them not to believe it anymore. So kind of like dissuasion, but maybe more strongly, convincing them to give it up, basically convincing somebody to give up a wrong belief. So those are some aspects you could think about, and as you do so, it's your ideas should be fairly specific and unique and original. Anybody could say, oh, we need to teach critical thinking skills in high school. Yeah, that's probably true. But a more specific idea about maybe education or prevention or persuasion that's specific to your topic. So I will provide some sources on through the class website, some links to some articles on research about why people believe in conspiracy theories and other misconceptions, including research on psychological biases and other factors involved in the popularity of such beliefs, especially today, and various articles, both in kind of more popular professional sources that would be more readable to you, and if you're interested in trying, some more academic articles, some more of the original research articles that might be, I don't know, you can try those if you feel comfortable reading them, but you don't have to. There are also a few articles on ideas for how to solve these problems, how to persuade people or educate people to not believe in these things. That's kind of a harder challenge. I'll talk about some factors that make it complicated in a minute. So when you talk about maybe one idea, it will be helpful to look at some of the sources and maybe base your ideas on some information or ideas from one of those sources about the research on this topic. But kind of develop it into your own idea or tailor it and make it specific to your topic. So for example, you read a research article or an article that's linked on my website about maybe some information on why people fall for conspiracy theories in general, or maybe some ideas about debunking them or dissuading people from them, and maybe take one of those and develop it into an idea for addressing your particular topic, the conspiracy theory of your presentation, or other myth or misconception that you're doing. But try to come up with kind of your own unique or original kind of twist on it, or your own original unique application, maybe of an idea from one of those sources on how to deal with this problem in society. Your idea should be practical. Try to make it practical, and thus it should be fairly specific, again, to your topic. Don't just say, well, we need to educate people better about thinking skills or information literacy. Yeah, but something specific and practical. Okay, adult education, online awareness, high school education, and make it so that it will, or try to deal with your specific belief. People just trust the government because they believe in these Illuminati theories. Okay, how can you reach out to them? Come up with a specific, original, practical idea about how to reach out to these people. It should have some potential for being effective. And again, that's why it should be pretty specific, a specific idea, something that's probably practical or potentially effective, something that would likely work if you could do it, and feasible. Feasible, that means it's doable. You can actually do it. It's not some really idealistic or really grand idea, but something that's specific enough that it could be implemented, it could be done, it's something manageable. You could kind of see how it could be implemented by maybe an educational agency, a school system, or some kind of a workshop or training course, or something for people. So here's a question for you. When it comes to dealing with people who believe in misconceptions, myths, conspiracy theories, such beliefs, do you think normal persuasion and explanation work? Does it help to just explain to people why their beliefs are wrong? Does that work, especially with things like conspiracy theories? What do you think? Well, especially when it comes to some of the bigger ones, the conspiracy theories, they've bought into this whole, it's not just a limited belief like, an urban legend or pop psychology myth, but especially when it comes to conspiracy theories and some other misconceptions, pseudoscience beliefs, for example, they've bought into an entire worldview. It's a whole worldview, a whole way of thinking that affects the way they think about a lot of things. It's not just this little compartment where they believe in one little pop psychology myth, like left-right brain myth, but no, it's something really big that influences their whole worldview, how they see the world, how they see the world of science, or how they see the world of politics and world events, or their own government. So it is something that they've kind of committed to. They've an anti-vaxxer, for example, that too. They've kind of invested a lot in it. And so they believe in it so much that even their own ego is tied to it. So if you're attacking the conspiracy, they think you're attacking them personally. And so there's research showing that if you try to just present facts and evidence for the truth, not just conspiracy theories, but for other conceptions, especially those that people are really mentally invested in, thanks to the confirmation bias, you get this polarizing effect. It's called a backfire effect. You're polarizing them. Again, they might take it as a personal attack, like you're attacking them, even though you're trying to present it rationally and neutrally without attacking them or insulting them or telling them how stupid they are. Even if you're trying to do it carefully, they're still looking for confirmation. This confirmation bias is working in their brains as you're talking to them. And even the things that you say, they're looking for confirmation of their belief. Some of the things you present as evidence, or just the fact that you're trying to persuade them, you're trying to dissuade them from it. They'll think, oh, you're just being used by the Illuminati. You're just a dupe. A dupe is like a person who's been fooled. You've been fooled by the conspiracy, and you're being used by them. You're telling me this conspiracy doesn't exist. You're wrong. You're a fool. You're being used by the Illuminati. That's how they might think. This is called the backfire effect. It's a real psychological effect, and there's research on it that shows when people are really committed to a belief, and you present them even clear evidence and logical reasons for why it's incorrect, they will get more defensive. They will get more defensive, and it may even enhance their belief in it. They may believe in it even more strongly, or it strengthens their commitment to it. Because while they're listening to you explain why it's wrong, in their mind, they're thinking more and more about this worldview, this conspiracy, or the pseudoscience or whatever. And in their minds, it's just strengthening their understanding of of this wrong belief and the mental connections in their mind, because they're activating these mental connections, and it's making them stronger. So it's making them, and they're trying to explain it to you. I'm trying, the truth about aliens controlling the world, lizard people. They're trying to explain it to you. They're trying to defend their belief and explain it to you. In the process, it enhances their mental understanding of this narrative and this belief, and it strengthens their own belief in the myth. It backfires on you, and it polarizes them more, and they're less willing to listen to reason. They're less willing to listen to you, and it may push them into more of a black and white kind of fallacy. We're the enlightened, we're the smart ones. We know that the Illuminati is controlling things, and there's just more and more dumb people who refuse to believe that the Illuminati or the reptilian aliens are really in control and managing world events. It polarizes them, and it's not successful. And that's one reason I don't talk to my family about politics. Even though they're not really big on this stuff, they still believe somewhat in the one of the Illuminati type theories. And as these articles point out on the website, there's, for example, there's a nice short article about anti-vaxxers and why it doesn't help to try to talk to anti-vaxxers about the truth. And some reasons that this article points out, and some other reasons why, in general, people resist dissuasion. Again, these people, if it's a pseudoscience, for example, they're people who really have a weak or superficial or no understanding of science. And they can easily fall for science, and they think that they're following science, and it's not science. They don't understand how science works. They don't understand what scientific theories are, how scientific research works, and hypothesis testing and replication. You have to repeat studies, reproduce studies in order to really know for sure that something is true, that a hypothesis or an idea is true. If it comes to political conspiracy theories, for example, they have a weak understanding of geopolitics, global politics and economics and national politics, and how the government actually works and why the government does certain things. The government is ordering you to stay at home and wear face masks, not because the government is controlling you. That's what some conspiracy theorists and extreme right-wingers think in the US right now. It's not a government control plot. It's for public health and safety. Just like the US government did 102 years ago to 100 years ago during the Spanish flu epidemic, a century ago. When it comes to science or it comes to politics, maybe from the theory, they've absorbed a lot of facts, but they don't understand how to really conceptualize it. And they've bought somebody else's conceptualization or explanation of facts, the conspiracy theory. But they can kind of memorize or learn a lot of facts, but they don't have real conceptual understanding. And they think science is just learning a bunch of facts. And it's not. Science is about conceptual understanding, theories. It's theoretical understanding. No matter how empirical the work is, the research is you're doing, no matter how much empirical research, like lab research, you are doing as a scientist, there's a theory behind it that explains what's going on. There's conceptual understanding. Same is true for politics and economics. But a less educated person or a person who is jumping to conclusions about something they don't understand, they think they can just learn a bunch of facts, and that gives them understanding. That doesn't give them understanding. Just makes them more confused, perhaps. And never mind that, for example, they're reading their whole books explaining, by believers in conspiracy theories, explaining the history of the Illuminati and how it's been controlling things. And again, they're different books proposing different varieties or different versions of Illuminati conspiracy theories. And they read these different books, and they don't see the conflicts. Because one book says this: the Illuminati conspiracy is like this. It started with this medieval secret society, and it grew this way, and it involved these groups. And another book says, no, it started with the Catholic Church and Illuminati, and then it evolved this way. And another group says, no, it started with the aliens, and it went this way. So they read these conflicting, they get this conflicting information, but they don't see the conflicts and the inconsistencies. And what one source says about the conspiracy really conflicts at times seriously with what another source says. And they don't see that. They just absorb all this information, and they kind of craft in their minds their own understanding of the Illuminati conspiracy, or the alien conspiracy, or the the vaccination conspiracy theory, or the whatever theory it is. Another factor, I think, is we've talked about how media misreport health and science news and research, and that causes people to be confused and misunderstand science, or to misunderstand health and medical research, or to misunderstand psychology. So popular misreporting of this kind of stuff also creates confusion. And then, so getting back to what one of the articles says, the article that I will have on my website about anti-vaxxers and dealing with anti-vaxxers, confirmation bias and backfire effects, those kick in. You try to talk to somebody, try to reason with somebody, those kick in. This is the fact that people talk about it. Even people are talking in the media and online why this idea is wrong. Well, in doing so, they are repeating the myth. They explain what the myth is, and by repeating it, it actually, in some people's minds, makes them understand it better, or I don't trust the scientists, so they're trying to deny this. They're trying to explain why humans are causing global warming, and I don't believe in that, therefore it's wrong, and it makes them, so when the scientist is explaining the myth, they are repeating the myth in order to explain why it's wrong, but they're repeating the myth, and that just, for some people, repeating it makes it more popular. Or you're trying to reason with somebody who believes in one of these myths, and they're arguing back with you, and as they argue back with you, they are repeating and explaining the myth to you, and that solidifies it in their minds. So sometimes repeating the myth makes it more popular, which is kind of a paradox, but apparently that's sometimes true. So we have to think about how can we educate the public and show them not to believe in this, but without just repeating what the wrong belief is and then just explaining why it's wrong. We need to find more clever ways and more effective ways of educating the public. Affirmation. So many times when we are trying to talk to people who believe in myths and conspiracy theories, they take it as a personal attack. Like, oh, you're saying I'm stupid. Oh, you're stupid because you don't believe that the Illuminati are real. Okay. And one of these articles points out that it might help if we could affirm the people better and assure them that maybe I'm not attacking you, I don't think you're dumb, and finding some way of positively affirming them. I don't know how to do it. I feel so angry and frustrated myself with these ideas and people who believe in them. It's hard for me to affirm them, and certainly not think in my mind, this guy's stupid. I don't know how to do that. This article talks briefly about the need for affirmation, but it doesn't give any advice on how to do it. It might be something you could look into. Finally, the power of narrative. I mentioned this a little bit before. A lot of these ideas, especially the bigger ones, the conspiracy theories, the pseudoscience, and some of the other myths, it's not just a little belief like, left brain, right brain myth, or something like that, or the myth that MSG makes you sick, or MSG causes cancer. It's something that is a bigger story. I mentioned it has a worldview, a whole And along with that is a narrative. So like there are whole books explaining supposedly, allegedly, how the Illuminati started and how they took control of the world and what they're trying to do now and what their goals are. And different books have really different stories that are probably conflicting, but nonetheless, it's a narrative, it's a story. And a narrative is a story that explains something, just like a theory in science or the academic world is a set of ideas that explain something. Yeah. This theory explains the diversity of life forms, these kinds of 4 or 5 statements, propositions. Well, a narrative is kind of like that. So a conspiracy theory claims to explain why the world is going downhill and why things are changing. It's the secret group that's in control, the secret evil group. And along with that, they've got not only the theory, the explanation, but the narrative, the story that's very appealing. You can develop a whole story about how the Illuminati started and what they did in World War I, what they supposedly did to start World War I, and what they supposedly did to start the Great Depression of the 1930s and World War II, and their role in the Korean and Vietnam Wars, and their role in the 1997 economic crisis, and their role in the Great Recession of 10 or 15 years ago. So there's this whole story of things and how they explain so many things. There's a very elaborate story. Or something maybe smaller, anti-vaxxer conspiracy theory, the anti-vax myths. There's a story of some evil conspiracy of big pharmacy companies. They're the ones who make the vaccines, and this evil community of scientists and medical researchers who are somehow evil, and they have some evil purposes and goals somehow. Yeah, false accusations, falsely accuse a scientist of evil intentions, but they do that and they get away with it. They don't get challenged. There's a narrative. And the narrative to these people, it explains things. Everything seems to make sense. So they buy into it, they accept this theory, whether it's about the moon landings or about aliens or how vaccines are evil, and there's like a vaccine conspiracy or some version of the Illuminati conspiracy theory. It's a fairly detailed story. It's wrong, but it's a detailed story, and they go, oh, everything makes sense now. It gives them an understanding of the world when it's wrong, but it makes them feel like they have an understanding of the world, a better understanding of the world. It's a very powerful psychological effect. Maybe one I probably don't fully understand. I want to look into the research on this more. Quite interesting. And it affects their worldview, how they see the world, because they buy into a whole narrative. They buy into a whole theory, an explanation of what's wrong, and a whole narrative goes with it and shapes how they see the whole world in history, or at least modern history. And the news, it shapes how they interpret the news every day. These are powerful effects. How do we counter them? I don't know. Probably we need to find a clever way of presenting an accurate narrative to them in a way that would appeal to them in a way that would persuade them. Exactly how? I don't know. Maybe because, frankly, I'm frustrated by the whole situation as I look at what's happening in the world and how these myths are just becoming so prevalent. I'm just frustrated and overwhelmed. So I'll leave it to you young people. You're not as disillusioned and pessimistic as this old professor is. Come up with an idea. How can you use the power of narrative in a positive way to persuade people about the truth in a way that's affirming and helpful without invoking the backfire effect? How can we do this? Now, come up with a good idea, just one good specific idea in your presentation. So you're going to want to analyze the problem. Why is this myth appealing? Why do people believe it? How and why has become so popular? And what's maybe one thing we can do to help address this problem? I'll leave it up to you. Finally, one of the next video segments, I'm going to link you to a whole YouTube video. Adam Ruins Everything is a series, YouTube video series by a man named Adam Conover. And he has had a couple of YouTube channels with the same name. It was originally hosted by one YouTube channel, and then he moved to a different YouTube channel with a wider platform, I guess. He does these really well done debunking videos. He debunks some popular misconception and myth. He's done a wide variety of topics. It's kind of an infotainment approach. And I'll link you to maybe one. I think I'm going to link you to the one where he talks about this myth that you should drink 8 glasses of water a day, which is wrong, of course. Common sense should tell you that. Anyway, it's infotainment. It's a blend of information and entertainment. And I'm not saying you should do this for your final presentation. Your presentation in my class should be more of a serious academic presentation, more of a serious talk. But I want you to look at an episode of Adam Ruins Everything. What do you think of this infotainment approach? Do you think this would effectively reach people? Would it turn people off? How effective is it? Do you think he's being too entertaining? Because he does use humor a lot. Is this effective? Is humor effective? Does humor enhance the message? Does it weaken the message? Sometimes humor can be an effective way of disarming people's defenses. Does it work here? So I'll let you look at that. That'll be probably one of the next video segments for this week. And then later we're going to talk about maybe some other examples of some other kinds of misconceptions and conclude the series like that. Anyway, good luck on your assignments. Pay attention to the LMS for assignments, short assignments to prepare you for the final as well as the final assignment itself. Good luck and enjoy.